White shine, you made it.
Okay, darling, I'm gonna cook some VMH. Of course, darling, that is with chicken half. That I'm in the beach. Of course, darling, that is with chicken half here. Of course, darling, that is with chicken half. That no one can against me. That is with chicken half. You wanna go to Troy? Of course, darling, that is with chicken half. That no one can against me. That Patty is burning in the beach, and you know that. Of course, darling, that is with chicken half. That no one can against me. Of course, darling, that is with chicken see. That no one can against me. Of course, darling, that is with chicken half here. Of course, darling, that is with chicken half. That you wanna be Helen, that you wanna marry Helen. Of course, darling, that is with chicken half. That no one can against me. Of course, darling, you wanna take my baby and take it to Helen. Of course, darling, you're crazy. That is with chicken half. That no one can against me. So forget that, darling. Of course, that is with chicken half. Of course, darling, that is with chicken half. You wanna take my baby. Of course, darling, you wanna take my soup. Of course, darling, that is with chicken half. You wanna take my soup. Of course, darling. And singing Vatican City. Of course, darling, you wanna take my baby. My soup and singing Vatican City. Of course, darling, forget about them. Of course, darling, they are not worth it. Of course, darling, that is with chicken half. That they all want to incarnate and things like those. Of course, darling, but they are not worth it. Of course, darling, that is with chicken half. That they all want to incarnate. Of course, darling, but they don't even have the eggs to kill themselves. Of course, darling, that is with chicken half. They have an open grave. Of course, darling, that is with chicken half. That they are not worth it and they are sinning there, darling, and you know that.
White shine, you made it.
Of course, darling, that is with chicken half. Of course, darling, that they are all in primary Helen. Of course, darling, that is with chicken half. Of course, darling, that is with chicken seed. That no one can against me. Of course, darling, that is with chicken half here. Of course, darling, take a rice. Of course, darling, that is with chicken half. That no one can against me. Of course, darling, wanna take my soup and my baby and sin in Troy. Of course, darling, you're crazy. Of course, darling, they are not worth it. They all wanna reincarnate and things like those. Of course, but they don't have the eggs to kill themselves. Of course, darling, they are sinning in open graves and full of shit. Of course, darling, they are priests making the role of a god and sinning with money who isn't his and hers. Of course, darling, that is with chicken half. That they are crazy. Of course, darling, take our rights. Of course, darling, no one can against us. Of course, darling, that is with chicken half. That no one can against us. So forget about them. Of course, darling, they are all priests who wanna reincarnate with open graves, sinning with money who isn't his and hers. Of course, darling, they are crazy. Of course, darling, you wanna take my soup and my baby. Of course, darling, I'm saying with some stepfather there who plays the role of a god. Of course, darling, you're crazy. That is with chicken half. That you shouldn't do that. Of course, darling, you're gonna kill yourself. Of course, darling, that is with chicken half. That you wanna take my soup and my baby and sin with some stepfather in an open grave with my money. Of course, darling, with some stepfather who plays the role of a god. Of course, darling, you're crazy. Darling, you're shooting yourself. Of course, darling, that is with chicken half. That no one can against us. Of course, darling, that is with chicken half. Forget about that. Of course, darling, that is with chicken half. That no one can against us. Of course, darling, that is with chicken half. That no one can against us. Of course, darling, he can cook you some VMH. Of course, darling, that is with chicken half. That no one can against us. Of course, darling, that is with chicken half. darling, that is what you can have, that no one can against us. Of course, darling, that is what you can say, that no one can against us. Of course, darling, that is what you can have.
White shine, you made it.
Of course, darling, you wanna take my soup and my baby and sin with some stepfather who placed the rod of a god in an open grave with money who isn't his. Of course, darling, you're crazy, you're shooting yourself. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. Take our eyes. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. That no one can against us. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. That you wanna take my baby and our soul. Of course, darling, I'm sin with some stepfather who placed the rod of a god on an open grave. Of course, darling, with money who isn't his. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. That you are shooting. But of course, darling, that is what you can have. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. That you are here. Of course, darling, giving my money and my soul to some guy. Of course, you're giving my money and my soul to some guy who plays the role of a god and don't have the X to kill himself, and he keeps sinning with my money. Of course, darling, you're so bad, darling. Of course, that is what you can have, that no one can against us. Of course, darling, that is what you can have, that you shouldn't. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. I give you some damage. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. Of course, darling, wanna give my money. Of course, to some guy who plays the role of a god in an open grave and keeps sinning and don't have the X to kill himself. Of course, darling, that is what you can have, that you shouldn't. Of course, darling, that is what you can have, that no one can against me. Of course, darling, take our eyes. Of course, darling, that is what you can have, that no one can against us. So come on.
White shine, you made it. White shine, you made it.
Of course, darling, you know we're with the white rabbit. Of course, darling, that is what you can have, that we're with the white rabbit. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. Of course, darling, that is what you can have, that you're free to go, but do what you want. Of course, darling, that is what you can have, that we're with the white rabbit here. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. Of course, darling, that is what you can see, that no one can against me, that I should break up with my girlfriend. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. But okay, what can you do against that? Just nothing. Of course, darling, that is what you can have, that I just let you clear the codes if you want to go. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. That I'm not inventing nothing, darling, that the codes are the codes and the codes are done like that. Of course, darling, that is what you can have and you have to know them. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. Of course, darling, that is what you can have, that you wanna take my soup and my baby and give them to some guy. Of course, who plays the role of a god and don't have the X to kill himself. Of course, darling, that is what you can have, that he keeps alive and selling with my money. Of course, darling, that is what you can have, that you're just done. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. Of course, darling, you can have. That is what you should do. Of course, darling, but you can try. It's not what you should do, and you know that, darling. That is what you can have. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. Of course, darling, you can have. Okay, but you try, don't just in try, not, darling, and you know that. Of course, darling, you can have. Okay, but just in try is not what you should do. Of course, darling, that is what you can have, because it's my baby and my money. Of course, darling, and just in try is not what you should do. Of course, darling.
White shiny, you made it.
Of course, darling, that is what you can have, that no one can against us. Of course, darling, yes, intro is not what you should do with money, but isn't yours. Of course, darling, that is what you can have, that you should I seen an open grave with yes, intro with money who isn't. Yes, of course, darling. That is what you can have, that you can have is what you should do, but just intro is not what you should do, and you know that, darling. Of course, that is what you can have, that the only increasing play the role of a god and sing with money wasn't his and hers. Of course, darling, that is what you can have, that you should let them. Of course, darling, that is what you can have, that no one can against that they can book it some VMH. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. Here with the white rabbit, and you know that. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. Of course, darling, that I'm shooting my turn. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. That I don't have time for the word play. Of course, darling, I'm shooting a 10. Of course, darling, you know that. So come on. Of course, darling, that no one can against me. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. That just intro is not what you should do. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. Of course, darling, take our lives. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. Of course, darling. That is what you can have, and don't neglect. Of course, darling, that is what you can have. Of course, darling, that they don't have what they have to have. Of course, darling, that is what you can have, that they don't have enough. Gotcha. Of course, darling, that is what you can have, that no one can against us. So come on, of course, darling, take a rise. Of course, darling, that is what you can have, better than any one of them.